Good Friday morning. Thanks for logging on to BAMWX.com. We've got our updated weeks 3 and 4 and August forecast here for you. A lot to dissect here today. We'll take a look here. 72-hour precipitation. Again, outside of this, right in through here, which was the remnants of Barry the last 3 days. Outside of that, you've had, about through here, just an immenseful, a plentiful flow, if you will. The northwest flow just keeping everybody getting plenty of rainfall the last 72 hours. Portions of southwest Wisconsin got a ton of rain last night. In 3, 4, 5-inch rain reports here coming out of southwestern Wisconsin. So pretty good amount of rain here overnight. All right, the focus today turns to the QBO analogs and our atmospheric base state, again, continuing to be stuck in more of a La Nina-like atmosphere. Our QBO is trending positive. It's opening up the door for some signals here getting into August, so we'll talk about that. Look at this, though. Storm reports the last couple of days. They've just been very, very busy, okay, in terms of the storm reports here. You can see that when we go through here, you see this is the 12th. Here's the 13th. The 14th, very busy in the northern plains. The 15th, very busy in Minnesota, Wisconsin. Then we had that strong cluster come through the South Dakota here. A lot of high wind reports over 70 miles per hour. Then the next day it went in through Iowa and down through western Illinois. And, so we're going to add to that in a big way today because what we are seeing here is a very active pattern. This is your latest radar this morning, and it's all because of this thermal gradient. Okay, this stuff going around the top of this thermal gradient. What you see here is another thunderstorm cluster that's going to work in, and there's some locations under the gun today. In fact, we'll talk about that real quick. There's a moderate risk of severe storms, and we did some calculations here. There's roughly about 305 million bushels of corn here grown inside the moderate risk, and this is where the risk for significant wind damage can occur, significant wind risks here from this cluster of storms that will develop today. Hail and tornadoes too. This will be a pretty decent cluster of thunderstorms that will come through. So certainly something to keep in mind here, that a pretty active day, if you will, in terms of weather. Now the overnight GFS run, it does have the thunderstorms coming through. And then, it's interesting. I mean, look at the 5-day precip across portions of Iowa. All right. Pretty good rainfall here across the state from the overnight GFS 1 to 5 day. And then in the 6 to 10, it got a little bit wetter. I think it might be a little bit too wet, but it did get wetter, hit or miss precipitation fashion, if you will, in the 11 to 15. You see the precipitation risks shift south a little bit. Boy, I tell you what, this would be nice for the Central Plains, but you don't want to put too much stock into that GFS model. We talked about a pullback coming around the 23rd, 24th. We've talked about that for a long time. The pullback is here, will be here. We first have to deal with 110-degree heat indices, but it is coming. 7-day average temperature departures in the Corn Belt. Everybody at or below normal coming up the 7-day period. So a big pullback in temperatures. You can see that in our week 1 product here, where we do have a large portion of the country here below normal temperatures. Excuse me, very similar to 2018 with the pullback. Not as cold into week 2, we don't think. Can be some moderation as we are still going to be dealing with the negative angular momentum. Okay. The question ahead, for the first half of August is the base state of the atmosphere, and does it see a trend away from La Nina? All right. And if it doesn't, then things can actually get pretty warm here. So looking at our week 2 or week 1 and 2 precipitation forecast, it's not a bone dry look here. In fact, it's probably wetter in some of the main production areas versus 2018. You see down here at the bottom. But we don't have a lot of storm dates in here. A lot of this will probably be from northwest flow or storm clusters. So unfortunately, if you pick up some rain, you might be picking up severe weather along with it. That's kind of the unfortunate part. All right, weeks 3 and 4. Let's hop to that real quick. This is our latest here. We put so much into this. A lot goes into this. Really, pay attention to these. Generally, these do really well. I mean, we don't hit every one of them, but they do pretty good. All right. We talked about this pullback coming up for a couple of weeks. Okay. So you can kind of get the upper hand on this stuff if you use it correctly. Weeks 3 and 4, temperature outlook, probably going to get pretty warm into August. We generally win against the cooler European and American data, where they have cooler risks or we have above normal for the first half of August regarding temperatures. But the biggest driver behind the warmer risks is the atmosphere currently being in a La Nina-like state globally with the wind pattern. That's the negative AAM, which when plotting the correlation for August is very warm, like it is right now. Also, the North Pacific forecast ahead is very much a ridge, which is a negative WPO, which is a longer-term signal for lengthy heat in the central and southeastern U.S. So we anticipate the cooler risks to linger north and west and cooling demand nationally as a whole to be above the 10-year normal. But cooler risks will need to be watched out for in the mid-August if we can look at any Western Pacific typhoon action. That's the unknown. We pull in any Western Pacific typhoons and we get any recurves, that can add cold fronts into the mix later into August. Right now it looks pretty quiet. But mid to late August, that may change. There may be a cooler risk that can develop, but until we can actually see something, I can't really, I don't have any evidence of it yet. But it's just where we're at with that. Okay, watch the Western Pacific typhoons. For the August forecast in general, this is pretty interesting from the Bureau of Australian Meteorology. These guys here are really, they're tanking down ENSO, taking it into ENSO neutral, and pretty strong indications of that August, September. We're seeing that kind of right now. The other thing that concerns me is the Indian Ocean dipole is predicted to go into a positive state. The ENSO trending neutral and the IOD going positive increases our concerns for warmer and drier risks into August. Again, barring the Western Pacific typhoon recurves. That throws a wrench into everything, okay? You get a typhoon to develop, it recurves, you throw a big cold front into the mix, you alter the jet in the northern hemisphere, North America, okay? Let's pretend like we don't have that. We factor in ENSO and the IOD that we're noticing these trends here. This is the correlation for the positive IOD into August for temperatures. A pretty warm correlation here across the central and western U.S. with a little bit of a cooler risk here to the north and east. Okay, and then the precipitation is a pretty doggone dry correlation for August. Okay, now with that being said, we have to see the IOD go positive before we can say that. Now, all the models are trying to say that it is going to head to this positive dipole. But we have to see that actually happen first. And let me see if I can get a closer view here of the Indian Ocean. It doesn't have that one. Here we go. Let's do Indian Ocean. So the positive dipole, it's somewhat appearing here right now. No question about it. You can kind of see this warmer western half of the Indian Ocean, cooler eastern half, cooler maritime continent. That's a positive dipole of the Indian Ocean. That would certainly add to the fact that we would be concerned for a warmer and drier August. So here's our outlooks right now. We factored in the QBO and the AAM. We factored all this in. This is in your notes slide. You definitely want to make sure you read into this. I think it can be a very warm August, especially for the central and eastern Corn Belt. Eastern U.S., Mid-Atlantic. Big cooling demand possible for August as well, especially in the very important importante cities there, if you will, for the reverse C. So, this is certainly something we're certainly watching. That the negative AAM correlation, the positive IOD, it all correlates to warmer. The neutral trending ENSO signals. Now, the QBO analogs can still suggest wetter risks. The question is, where? Okay, we still have some time to update this. All right, this is July 19th. We'll have a couple more updates. However, something we certainly have to monitor right now. Okay, last year we had 344 CDDs. We're going 345 this year in August now. Until this global wind pattern and negative AAM changes, we are not going to back off of this warmer pattern overall, with the exception of the risk of the Western Pacific typhoon activity. You got to read your notes today. It's very important. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you soon.